Hello, and welcome to Speak Honest. I am your host and certified relationship coach, Jennifer Noble. It has been my passion for over a decade to help women like you heal what's been holding you back from having the relationships you deserve. Are you struggling with a relationship where you can't seem to voice your emotions, needs, and boundaries without having it blow up in your face? Then you have found the right podcast, my friend. Get ready for practical tips, empowering truths, and honest conversations. Now, let's dive in. Hello, ladies, and welcome back to another episode of Speak Honest. I am Jen Noble, your go-to relationship coach and author of the best-selling book, Dance of Attachment. And today we are talking about that moment when something small happens, but it doesn't quite feel that small in your body. You know, the moments that I'm talking about. And not the big betrayals and not the screaming matches you guys might be having, but the everyday stuff he does that just pisses you off. Maybe it's the dishes sitting there after you've already cleaned the kitchen twice this week, or the text that feels short when what you were really hoping for in that moment was warmth, and the way he says, relax, when clearly you're upset. Or the way he never seems to put his freaking coffee mug in the sink and now you guys are literally out of coffee mugs. Or the fact that you had to ask him again. And suddenly, you're not just irritated. You are deeply frustrated. You are pissed off. You can feel it in your chest. Your jaw is tightening, your tone is changing, and you're thinking, why am I this mad right now? It's really not that serious. But here's the thing. Your body doesn't know that. Because when something feels repetitive and dismissive or just a little too familiar, your nervous system reacts before your logic even gets a chance to speak. It mobilizes. It goes, oh, we know this feeling. We don't like this feeling. So now let's prepare for battle. But meanwhile, there is no battle. There is just a man, a mug, and some poor choices. And if you're listening to this thinking, okay, but I actually don't know how to stop reacting in those moments, then I want you to know this is exactly the work we do inside of the Speak Honest Academy. We don't shame your reactivity. We work with your nervous system so you can feel grounded, clear, and powerful instead of explosive or sarcastic or you shut down. Now, if that's something you've been craving, you can learn more by going to speakhonestacademy.com or just scroll on down to the show notes and click on the link right there. Because here's what we're not going to do. We are not going to make this about him being terrible. And we're not going to make this about you being too dramatic. We are going to just ask ourselves better questions like, what is happening inside of me right now? And how do I slow it down so I don't say something I'm going to regret or spiral into a whole story about what this means about our relationship or spend the next hour replaying the tone in my head like it was a crime documentary? Life is not about never feeling the big feels. Big feels, they are a part of being alive, and I want to encourage them. This is about learning how to feel them and pause before reacting. So, if you have ever snapped over a coffee mug and then felt guilty 5 minutes later, this episode is for you. Now, let's dive in. All right, so here's where we're going today. We are going to walk through 3 main things. First, what is actually happening in your body when he leaves the mug, the shoes, the dishes, and all of that, and you feel this big emotional spike? Because if you don't understand the nervous system piece, you will keep trying to fix this with better words. And this is not a words problem. Second, we are going to talk about regulation, what it actually means, how to create the pause, and how to stop your brain from convincing you there's a lion in the living room when there is just literally a man who forgot a coaster in his coffee mug. And third, we are going to talk about what actually happens when you skip regulation. Because this is the part so many women miss. They go straight from irritation to confrontation. And suddenly it's not about the mug anymore. It's about asking him to calm your nervous system, and that's why it blows up. So we're not going to suppress your feelings. We're not going to shame them. And we are going to understand them, regulate them, and then respond from a place of power instead of from a place of reaction. All right, so let's start with what's actually happening in your body when the irritation hits, because the mug is not the problem. Your nervous system is. When he leaves the coffee cup on the table, your brain does not calmly gather evidence and form a balanced conclusion. It does not say, perhaps he was distracted this morning. What's actually happening is your amygdala is filing first. That's the part of your brain responsible for threat detection. It is fast. And by golly, is it protective? And it does not wait for context. It doesn't care if he was distracted or tired, because research shows that the amygdala can activate before your rational brain fully processes what's even happening, which means by the time you consciously think, "Oh, I bet he's had a hard day," your body has already mobilized. Your heart rate shifts. Your muscles, they're tightening. Your cortisol is moving through your system, and suddenly you feel charged. And here's what's wild, is your brain reacts to something familiar faster than it reacts to logic. If you've ever felt unseen, unconsidered, or like you carry the mental load alone, your nervous system has that stored. So when something small resembles that old familiar feeling, your body goes, "Oh, hey, we know this. This is that thing again." But it's not a lion in the living room. And yet, your stress response doesn't know that. Your stress response sees the coffee cup as a lion, and girl, it is ready to defend. Think of it like this. Think of it like a smoke detector that goes off when you're just making toast. There's no 5-alarm fire happening, but the alarm is loud and it's convincing and it's getting your attention. Your nervous system would rather overreact than miss something important. And this isn't a flaw in our wiring. This is actually a great system. The same reason we have fire alarms, even if they go off just to remind us and everyone else that we burnt the toast, our nervous system is the same. It is biased towards protection. So when you feel that spike, instead of asking, "Why is he always like this?" a more powerful question to ask yourself is, "What did this just remind my body of?" That is where the real work begins. And now that we understand why our bodies think that the coffee cup is a lion, let's talk about what to actually do about it. Because here's where things get tricky. Most women try to fix this at the level of communication. We try to say it better, or we try to soften our tone. We try to be mature, but you cannot communicate your way out of a dysregulated nervous system. Regulation has to come first. And regulation does not mean calming down instantly. It does not mean pretending you're cool when you're not and you're very annoyed. And it definitely doesn't mean swallowing your feelings and becoming the cool, chill girlfriend who's like, "Hey, totally cool and everything's fine and I don't even care." That's not regulation. Regulation means creating a pause between the feeling and the reaction. That's it. That's the work. Right now, when you get irritated, the pattern looks like this. The trigger happens, then the stories start running in your brain, and then you react. And it's fast. It's almost instantaneous. It's automatic, and it feels justified. Regulation inserts one small but powerful thing into that entire sequence. Are you ready for it? A pause. That's it. Just a pause. And that pause is your power. That pause is where you step away. That pause is where you unclench your jaw. That pause is where you notice, "Oh, wow, my chest is actually really tight right now." That pause is where you ask, "Am I mad about the mug? Or am I feeling sad because I believe I'm unappreciated?" This is why I teach the RAISE method inside of the academy. First, you remove yourself, even if it's just emotionally. Then you anchor your body with breathing or grounding. Then you inquire into what you're actually feeling. Then you check the stories that are forming. Then you equilibrate. meaning you bring yourself back to neutral just enough that you can choose your response instead of being hijacked by it. And if you want to learn more about my RAISE method, I'll link a previous episode in the show notes, or you can always grab my book, Dance of Attachment, where I talk about it in there. And of course, as always, I teach this method inside of the Speak Honest Academy, so you're always welcome to join us in there if you're looking for more support. Because it's important to remember, big feelings are not the problem. Reacting from them is. Regulation is not about becoming less emotional. It is about becoming intentional with your emotions. And that changes everything. So now let's talk about what's actually happening when you do skip regulation before you go in and try to communicate to him. Because this is where everything quietly gets derailed. When you walk into that conversation still activated, it's not about the mug anymore. It's about relief. Your body is uncomfortable. Your nervous system is charged and you want it to stop right now. So you go to him hoping he says the right thing, does the right thing, fixes it fast enough so your system can calm down. But underneath that, what you're really asking for is, can you please regulate me? And that is a heavy job for anyone. Even if your words are calm, your body is not. I can guarantee you that. Your tone is going to be tighter. Your energy is sharper. Your nervous system is broadcasting urgency, and nervous systems, they talk to each other way louder than words do. So he doesn't just hear the request, he's feeling the pressure. Now, if he responds imperfectly, which, let's be honest, he's going to because he's human, your system is going to spike again. And suddenly, it's not about the mug. It's about saying, oh, see, he doesn't care at all. That's how small moments turn into these big, massive fights. When we outsource our regulation, we accidentally make our partner responsible for our internal state. And no one can sustainably carry that. It creates defensiveness, it creates shutdown, and it creates that feeling of walking on eggshells in your relationship. But when you regulate first, you remove the pressure. You're not asking him to calm your body. You're asking for a behavior shift from steadiness, not from survival. And the goal is not to never be annoyed. That's never the goal. The goal is to stop making someone else responsible for your annoyance, to stop making them responsible for soothing your nervous system. That's the shift. So to bring this all together, the mug was never the problem. The text was never the problem. The dirty dishes, the look he gave you over dinner, the lack of a hug after work, none of that was ever the problem. And no, that does not mean you were the problem either, girl. That is not what I'm saying. It means your nervous system is wired to react to what feels familiar, to patterns it recognizes, to moments that whisper, oh great, here we go again. And it mobilizes to protect you before your brain even gets a say. So let's remember to pause before we react. Because we are not stuck inside of our first reaction. We don't have to blow up. We don't have to shut down. We don't have to send that passive-aggressive text that we are going to regret later. We can now pause. We can notice what's happening in our body, and we can ask, is this feeling familiar? We can soothe ourselves enough to regulate, and then from that steadiness, we can have a connective conversation about what we need moving forward. Your power is in your pause. Always remember that part. All right, my loves, thank you so much for being here with me today. The fact that you're even willing to look at your reactions instead of just blaming him says so much about the kind of woman you are. That's self-awareness. That's growth. And that is so powerful. And if you're listening to this thinking, okay, Jen, this is great, but what do I actually do the next time he leaves the dishes in the sink again? Well, that is exactly why the Speak Honest Academy exists. Inside of the Academy, you don't have to figure this out alone. You can literally come into our live group coaching call, this week, basically, if you join us and say, Jen, he left the dishes in the sink again and I can feel myself spiraling. What do I do? What do I say? And then we will walk through it in real time together. We slow it down. We regulate together. We'll unpack the story and we'll figure out what secure communication looks like for you in that moment. And you'll do it in a community of women with a coach who holds space for you. This is where we practice the pause. This is where anxious attachment softens. And this is where you stop feeling crazy for being triggered and start understanding your nervous system instead of fighting against it. And right now, you can join us and get your first month completely free by putting in the code SECURE-START, all one word. So you can come in, experience the coaching, feel the support, and see what it's like to not carry this alone. So I want you to head to speakhonestacademy.com, or you can click on the link down there in the show notes and use the code SECURE-START when you check out to try out the Speak Honest Academy on me for the first month. I would love to see you inside and would love to help walk you through these regulation techniques. All right, everyone, that's it for this week, and I will speak with you all next time. Take care. As we wrap up today's conversation, always remember that healing is a journey, not a destination, and it is an honor to be a part of your healing journey. If you want to dig deeper into the topics we covered today, be sure to head over to our show notes where you can find all of the valuable information mentioned in today's episode right there. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's podcast. Your feedback means the world to us and helps others discover our podcast. Until next time, remember to speak up and speak honest.